Hi folks, with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the general or overarching issue of reparations for Black people and for Black countries. So we've got a steady queue of globalists, whipped up by globalist agitators, but a steady queue of Black people in the United States, as in individual citizens, but also Black countries throughout Africa or the Caribbean or wherever Blacks are in the majority, all queuing up saying that they're owed reparations by the rich white countries. What sort of reparations are these? Well, they're reparations for things like slavery and climate change and all the, just very conveniently, all the globalists. It's amazing how this all ties in so neatly and nicely. That really goes in and falls in line with all the globalist talking points. Must just be a coincidence, though. I'm sure it's really organic, So, but would anything change if reparations, in whatever form, it could be just big lump sums of cash, it could be whatever, it could be. So in the case of the United States, giving all Black people free houses and free businesses and free everything, free cars, everything for free, as reparations. Now, what the reparations are for is harder to as with all globalist inspired things, there's an outrageous untruths and a lot of emotion that go into it. Well, of course, Black people deserve compensation by those evil white people, because all of the white people, the straight white males, they're all Hitler. And end of discussion. What else do we need to talk about? Hitler owes reparations, does he not? Or are you a Nazi denying it? Yeah, you fucking fascist Nazi. So that's really the argument. There's the justification when you sit down and try and even make an attempt to work through it. It's absurd in every conceivable way. But let's look at, would it make a difference? That's the point of this essay. Now, in Australia, we've got some good examples. There's there's not a large amount, but a decent amount of Indigenous Australians, the Aborigines, that want to live the same hunter-gatherer, nomadic, and they were nomads, nomadic lifestyle that they lived before Europeans showed up, and they lived that way. The local Aborigines were a Stone Age people. The entire world had a lot of it had moved forward, so that when Europeans turned up, there were thousands of years of evolution separating the two races there, and you can imagine it didn't necessarily work out so well all around. But there weren't many. Australia is a very large continent, and there weren't many. There was less than 1 million Aborigines here. So there was, again, white travellers could travel for days, weeks even, and not see a single Indigenous native. So it was hardly a thickly populated place. Like any sort of large river valley, like the population in parts of China or somewhere where there were gazillions of people around the river. But Australia is very sparsely populated, but nonetheless there's these Aborigines that want to live the rural nomadic lifestyle. They then go back to the sort of situation they were in before white people turned up. They were lucky to live to 50 years old. The average age was late 30s, and it was a very brutal existence. Constant tribal, petty warfare, and people trying to spear each other all the time, and so on. And they would tend to move around in the seasons depending on where the food was, they were, again, nomadic and just living a hunter-gatherer existence. So when these Aborigines are moving around rural areas, they don't have the medical care and all the sort of things. Remember, they want to live like it was before the Europeans turned up. So they go around it, but they now decide, well, we want to do this and the activists pushed them into it. I'm not sure they would necessarily want this if you sort of sat down and talked with all of them, but the activists want that you have to have top level, not mid-level, top level, first world, cutting edge medical care provided at all times. So all the advanced science that the first world can offer has to be available to these people living in the middle of nowhere, hundreds upon hundreds of miles from the nearest town. And if they don't get that, then the white man is a fucking fascist, fucking Nazi, fucking Hitler, oppressing these poor black people. The evil Hitler straight white man. So, well, hold on a minute, you can't have both. Can you roam around nomadically, sort of in the middle of nowhere, and yet still expect the downtown city quality of medical care and all the bits and pieces? I mean, can you really do that? There has to be mobile hospitals, fully tricked up, fully kitted up. Mobile hospitals has to follow them around. If you don't do that, you're fucking Hitler. So, gee, okay. So it gets pretty expensive. So there've been various endeavors that the evil white people have done up by, well, okay, let's try and get these indigenous people to stay in one area. We'll pick a rural area that's in their like tribal sort of district. And what we'll do is we'll build, 50 houses, all at the expense of the taxpayer, 50 houses, with the toilets and the showers and top quality houses, and we'll give them cars, jeeps, so they can go into the rural areas, and we'll give them financial benefits to pay for the food and all that sort of thing. We'll pay for everything to do with the house. It's going to cost them nothing, and let's see if that works. And maybe in a couple of generations we'll have created we'll have achieved something here. Now, wow, I mean, I wouldn't mind if somebody gave me a free house, but anyway, I'm not being oppressed by Hitler. So these Aborigines duly moved in, but there was a couple of mistakes made. Was that people from different tribes were given these, they were equally portioned out to the different tribes in the region. So that meant that there was a lot of violence and killing and murders and bashings and stabbings going on as the different tribes. So that had to be sorted out. But once that was dealt with, and that was a little bit silly. I think they should have done a better job of researching what the possibilities were going to be there. Although they did ask, and everyone agreed that they would, because they're all getting free houses. Everyone agreed. Oh yeah, okay, no, I don't mind if another tribe's there. But as soon as they all move in, then the trouble begins. So what do they do with these? Well, they started. There were fireplaces there, but why use the fireplace when you can set a fire in the middle of the floor? So they started pulling up fence palings and other stuff they could get their hands on. Then they started pulling up the floorboards in order to burn them for fires, for cooking and for whatever. And then the houses burned down. They were rebuilt and burned down again, and so on. They would take the expensive four-wheel drives they were given, and they would drive them out in the middle of nowhere. When it ran out of petrol, they would just walk away and leave it, just leave it out there, and would forget where they'd left it. And so now, when you're looking at an outback area where there's it can take you quite a while to find something, and the doors are left up and the windows are left open, and the Jeep needs a lot of work. Once it's found, you got to take the fuel out there, or if they may drain the thing of oil to use the oil for something else, and then the engine seizes because it's got no oil in it. So before you know it, all the four-wheel drives are gone. They're either abandoned or the engines have seized, and so on. So there's a huge amount of on cost in looking after. The houses are constantly being replaced, then replaced again after that. Fences are constantly being replaced and rebuilt, and so on. The four-wheel drives that are given for free, the maintenance cost of keeping them on the even if you give put a petrol station there and give them free petrol, it's too hard to go there. And why bother getting the petrol and going back and getting the Jeep? The government will give me another one. And so on it goes. Special supermarket is built just for supplying the people in this area, but they don't see why they should have to pay for anything. And this is the same in the African communities, or nearly all of them. Everything that's owned is owned communally. They've got no concept of private ownership. Even the Africans, African Americans in the United States today, a lot of them still have that view of the tribal village back in Africa, and they've been in the United States for like 400 or 500 years, and yet still they have this communal ownership thing. And don't see why. But you white people have so much. Why won't you share it with us? Why? You know why you don't do this? Because you're racist, fucking Nazis, fucking fascists. That's why you won't share it with us. And we're going to make you share it with us, and you've got to give us everything for free. But when that was tried, certainly in that exercise in Australia, the reason I know this is the project manager, if you like, for the project manager for that project of building the houses. I know, and she was sort of quite frustrated because she's quite a leftist, and she certainly leans strongly to the left. But she was of the view they tried everything, they did everything, they just threw money at these people, but it still all went to shit. And and in the end they abandoned all the houses because they'd ruined them and burned them down and torn them to pieces to build fires and that sort of thing. And they couldn't, yet the same people that destroy those houses are the same ones that go, look how oppressed we are. Look at how wickedly evil the white people treat us. But for some reason, you never see in the media about all the resources. And even the politicians don't do it. I think the politicians go to that. We provided 50 houses. We rebuilt each house 10 times, and at the cost of X in your taxpayer. Don't tell me we don't do anything for that sort of thing. But there's no fight back there. Everyone just tamely rolls over and it stumps up another gazillion dollars to be wasted and disappear. It gives jobs to all sorts of activists and freeloaders and that sort of thing. So maybe that's really the purpose of it. But the Aborigines on the street, it's not helping them. Not that they aren't their own worst enemies, they are, but this idea nothing's being done. So when you go along, like news crews would wait till all the houses were burned down, then they'd go there and have a look. Say, look at these terrible houses that the evil white people gave to me, and nobody would live in those sort of places. Well, no, they were brand new. What do you think that they're specially manufactured as burnt shells were? You fucking moron. They were brand new houses at one point. And they do other things like pull the oven out or the anything they can pull out of the wall and then sell it at some secondhand place down the road, for a few bucks, and then they'll go to some bar and get alcohol and get wasted. So anyway, these are the challenges that are going on. So it's very hard. It's not as easy as just give them some money. Just give them a business, just give them a house, just give them a car, and then suddenly magically it all comes together. It doesn't work that way, and the situation is far more nuanced than the activists and the agitators and the media are prepared to accept or deal with. Now, coming to just giving the business, saying that in the case of African Americans, I've hired some African Americans, so I've got some experience at this, and I've mentioned it in other videos, but here's a guy, he's, I don't know, late 20s, I guess. He's got two degrees, but they're affirmative action degrees. He might as well have, he's learnt nothing there. So he got an affirmative action high school diploma, affirmative action senior high school diploma, then affirmative action two degrees at a fourth, fifth tier type university college in the United States. Now he ends up coming to Australia. I mean, he looked the part. I mean, he came in quite well dressed and well groomed, reasonably well spoken compared to a lot of the African Americans I've met, and chip on the shoulder, but not super chip on the shoulder. Enough that I was, of course, concerned. Now, at the time, I was under a bit of pressure to increase the number of non-white people on the payroll, and if it hadn't been for that, I might not have hired him. But because of that, and because everyone who applied was white except for him, I was hired really to get some of the people off my back who were pestering me all the time. But I did think that he had a decent chance of working out. So, but look, from from day one, he would turn up. The starting time was 9 o'clock. He would arrive at 9:05, 9:10, but he was still dressed in casual clothes. He'd be in his t-shirt and shorts, for example, and I said, well, why are you ready to start? Well, no, look, didn't have time to get dressed and have a shower, so and I didn't have time to go to the gym. So there's a gym down the road, and I've become a member of that. So I'm going to go to the gym, have a workout, have a shower, and I'll get changed there. So, that means you won't be sitting at your desk ready to start work till after 10 o'clock. What's the problem, is it? I just didn't have time. We were busy last night. I stayed out late, and I partied. Why should I have to worry about that? I need my sleep, and so that was the I'm paraphrasing here, and this took a while to get to the sort of that stage. So I had to say that hey, that's no good, buddy. Now, other things, the lifestyle he led was guaranteed to give him all sorts of trouble. He lived a lifestyle well beyond his capacity to subsidise. He and his girlfriend, who's an exotic dancer, by the way, hot-looking girl, an exotic dancer, and she liked going out for dinner every night, sort of hung around with a crowd that liked to go around. They had quite a small apartment, and he complained the apartment was small, and they two of them got bored in there, so they liked to go out, and he said things like, I enjoy spending money. And, well, don't we all? But hey, buddy. So he'd go out for dinner every night. They would buy lots of dope to smoke, and so he was constantly living from minute to minute, and he was going to loan sharks to get money, and they were coming after him, and he got really adept at realizing that he gave the company the address, so people were coming around looking for him, and so he was really adept at going out to the back balcony and jumping off the balcony, going into this like small forested area that was, like a recreation park area, and he was this is what he's working out in the gym, because he would jump the balcony and run off, and so it became quite untenable, and so I got to the point where even the folks that were pestering me to hire him, or to hire a non-white person, were now pestering me to fire him. The same people, for goodness sakes. So I sort of thought, well, no, he's here now. I might as well, make the best of it. So I tried to convince him, look, do your work, turn up on time, do your work, properly dressed, and I'll give you all the help I can to make you successful. And whatever you need, you tell me if you're missing something, and I don't care whether it's you don't have enough pens in the drawer of your desk, whatever you tell me, I'll make sure you get it. And but it still didn't make a difference. I tried to counsel, so you can't go out for dinner every night, you can't afford it. And this guy was no mathematical genius, but so I had to, very painfully and slowly explain to him how he just couldn't afford it. And he would sort of look blankly and say, well, why don't you just give me a pay rise then? No. That's not how it works. You have to produce something. Well, why? And again, he fell back on that black communal ownership thing of, well, why? You've got so much. You've got a great car, and you're wearing an expensive suit. Why can't I have those things as well? I want those things. They make me feel good. Why can't I have them? The white people have them. Why can't I have them? And that was really the stuff. And that pretty much sums up the black attitude in the US that I've certainly I've noticed. And this is in the US when I'm hiring and interviewing and talking with black people, including black activists, by the way, being an out of town boy with a weird accent is kind of, the racism thing isn't your fight. It's not your problem. So they're probably more open in talking to me than they might be others, but they're the same. It's the same attitude. Why can't we have what the white people have? If we haven't got it, it must be because of racism, must be because of Hitler. And the concept of making wealth, working hard, delaying gratification, going without, looking at the longer term and so on, that doesn't seem to work. The immediate gratification, I want it now, that sort of thing. And if you look at sort of black, say, sports people, Muhammad Ali, even, you look at black sports people who've made a lot of money over their time, been very successful at it, not just in boxing, but in, it could be football or basketball or something like that. They've got this army of other black relatives and third cousins that are parasiting off them. But they don't see a problem with this. Well, what I own, I'm happy to share. And that's fine. That's great. That's okay. But this idea that it is then incumbent on the white person to share everything is another matter. Now, in terms of black people giving businesses and so on, or gifted, if I look at, say, in areas like New York, where there were quite aggressive measures to subsidize, or even here in Australia, subsidize black businesses or to give loans, business loans to black people, it just doesn't work out. The commitment to work hard, to go without, to plan ahead, to open up the shop on time and so on. It just they just can't do it. Now, are there one or two that can do it? Sure. But as a general rule, certainly by the vast majority can't. It's hard work. It's delaying gratification. It's going without. It's seeing all this money move through the business. But when you pay your bills, there's not much left for you, that sort of thing. That's difficult for black people to comprehend because there's so much. There's so much here. Why can't I have it? Why? Why not? It's because of those damn fascist races. That's why. They're stopping me from having what I want. So it's an attitude. And just to sort of illustrate the point, there was an Indian guy or Indian sort of investment group, if really, who have bought up a number of all-night convenience stores in the downtown area of Sydney. And they had this idea they could get cheap black people to work all night and doing the nighttime shift. I think it starts at 10 and runs to 6 or 7 or something like that. And so the Indian guy and I was talking to him about, well, how did that go? And he said it was a disaster. He said the black guys would just leave. They go off and party. They just put they'd write some sign on the door saying back in 5 minutes, and they just never would come back. Or come back hours later, or they'd come back a half an hour before 6 o'clock, knock off time, and you'd look at the till and there's no money and say, hey, what's going on? And so they'd have cameras and they'd see the guy, the black guy. So they couldn't even, they just couldn't rely on the black guys working, in the prescribed hours. They would just leave and go off and to cocktail lounges or party, or their buddies would come around, that sort of thing. So is it possible? Now, the richest blacks in the world are the black people in America. So they're the ones that are richest by quite a stretch. So if you look at all of the black countries that were rich while the white man was running them in Africa, then they're all gone. They're all quite poor now, even though they're rich in natural resources. So I don't know what the answer is. It's very nuanced. There are various levels of complexity here. But is the answer just to say, well, reparations are it? once those reparations are paid, that's the end of it. No, nothing more. Never again do we have to worry. That's not how it's going to go. And just again, as a second illustration, something I didn't realize, or I was aware of it, but didn't realize the extent of it, was the amount of black people that get murdered in the United States. It seems like an awful lot. And then when you look at the stats of how it happens, it's black people killing each other. Now it could be petty. It could be like drug lords in disputes or something like that. But it seems quite trifling issues are enough for one black person to kill another black person. And it just seems very odd. So it's a tiny proportion of that are killed by white people. And I hadn't realized that the amount of black people killed by white people was that small. But yet you'd think from the media and from the activists that it was the complete reverse, that black people were being killed by white people in large numbers, and black people killing each other was so small to be irrelevant. But in fact, it's not. It's black people killing each other that puts the murder rate up. Anyway, that's my opinion, my view. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.